So we talked about existence of God already, yeah? If I bring you evidence that Prophet Muhammad is a prophet, then logically we should accept that he was a messenger. Would you agree?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, if I bring you compelling evidence.
Yeah.
Okay, now, future point. Can someone tell you about the future with the following criteria? Clear claims about the future, not self-fulfilling. Meaning I don't say I'm going to drop the book, then I drop it myself, yeah? I don't fulfill the prophecy myself. Claims which are numerous, not one or two, because you can make a lucky guess. Before the event took place, the Prophet made the prediction before the event took place. Okay? And all the predictions are correct, none of them are false. Can anyone tell us about the future with this criteria in place? Elifana hasn't, definitely, but can anyone do that? Okay. If Prophet Muhammad were to do that, is that evidence that he's a messenger of God or not? And he says it's not my knowledge, it's the knowledge of the creator of the universe who's not bound by present, past, and future. He knows everything. And if he were to bring this criteria, would you say that's compelling evidence that he's a messenger of God or not? Yes or no? Okay, no, why not? If he was able to do it, why are we not able to do it? And if he's not a messenger, how would he was able to do it then?
Then why would you say Elifan is a messenger?
Sorry?
Why would he say Elifan is a messenger?
Because she doesn't fit the criteria. If her predictions are not before the events, if she made mistakes, that would mean that it's not from God, because God doesn't make mistakes.
But apparently she didn't make mistakes.
Do you see the criteria that I said? No, but in order for you to say that, you have to have had research what she said. Can you tell me her claims of the future, is it written down? And if it's written down, okay, so it's just word of mouth.
Yeah.
Okay, but we have written down events, predictions before they take place.
What if?
And we have a system of knowing that they were before coming into place.
If she was to write these down, this is all not factual, but if she was to,
Yes.
1,000 years from now, some person could say, I believe in this Elefana woman, because she wrote them down and these predictions are coming true.
Yes.
Right?
With the criteria, all of it, not just before the events.
Then would you say this woman is similar to, I don't know if it's the right to compare to a prophet?
No problem, yeah. I would say this woman, if she claimed to be a prophet, she is a prophet. Because logically, if we are in a universe, we're bound by the laws of the universe. We cannot access the future because we're bound by the laws of time and space. But the creator who created the universe is not bound by the laws of time and space. So he can tell someone about something that is going to happen in the future. So if she did every time make numerous claims and all of them happen, which is not possible, and this is the claim we're making, there is no one in the history who done it except Prophet Muhammad, which gives him the qualification to be called the messenger of God. But I'm asking you still, why are you then saying it is not sufficient criteria? Why?
I don't know.
Okay, but then you have to be consistent, right? Logically. If they don't have an answer, then you should accept if it's logically making sense, right? That if he wasn't a messenger, he would not access this. It's impossible because it's not in our boundaries as a human being. If he did, then that is evidence that he's a messenger, for we should believe he's a messenger and accept his claim. But by the way, that's just one of the evidences in Islam that I'm giving you, yeah? Now, well, and I'm telling you, because you brought prophecies into the idea, Prophet Muhammad did actually do that. And I can give you some of his prophecies if you want. So he said, for example, you will see the Bedouin. Do you know Bedouins? Bedouins are Arabs who live in the desert.
Okay, yeah.
They have tents and they don't have buildings of civilization. He said you will see the Bedouin barefoot Arabs. Bedouin Arabs, you'll see them building the tallest buildings. Where's the tallest building in the world? Dubai, Burj Khalifa. Now, he said that 1,400 years ago. He said that it's one of the signs of the last day that you'll see Bedouin barefoot Arabs doing this. 1,400 years prior to it. 50 years ago, Dubai was a desert.
Yeah, I know.
Why did it change? What happened?
I was going to ask, do you think it changed because they read the Quran and
That's the point I was coming to. I know what you're thinking, but that's the point I was coming to. I'm saying, why did it change? How did it change? They found oil.
Yeah.
The Prophet said that the earth would puke its treasures and money will become abundant, so they knew. So he didn't only tell them what they will be doing, but he gave the reasoning behind how they will be able to do what they did. And oil was not of value in the past, it's today because of the equipment that we have. So how would he know that? If he was not a messenger of God. Okay, Prophet Muhammad said that, you know the countries that are Muslim today, there was a battle Prophet Muhammad had, it was called the Battle of the Trench, because they had a trench. There was an army attacking them, there was outnumbered 3-1. And then they had a treaty with the Jews behind them, which betrayed them. So they were hungry, starving. The Prophet tied a rock on his belly from the amount of hunger that he had. They were trying to build a trench because one of his companions suggested that they do that. Yeah. Then when they were building that trench, they're supposed to be attacked. They don't know if they're going to live tomorrow or not. Prophet Muhammad made predictions about countries that Islam will enter in the future. Imagine in that situation, you don't know if you're living tomorrow or not, and you're telling your companions, he said, I see the Rome being opened. I see the palaces of it. I see Persia. Do you know what Rome and Persia was? You are someone without any military knowledge, without anything. You have just a bunch of followers. You don't know if you're going to live tomorrow. You're outnumbered, right? You're ambushed. And you're telling them the biggest empires at the time, which is the Roman and Persian Empire, you Muslims will overtake these, will conquer them. He was telling the Muslims he will do that. An atheist historian, he said this is paramount to the Eskimos, saying we're going to conquer USA and Russia. What is the possibility of that taking place? Yeah?
Can I just grab one? Is that okay?
Yeah, I'll give you before you go. Don't worry. I'll give you before you go.
And I also wanted to say,
yes.
A reason that my personal belief in Islam isn't
forbidden as well, I'm going to give
isn't here right now is because my home country was taken over because of the Christian majority war countries and Muslim Islam majority countries taking over our land, right? And all of these different.
I find that funny, but I'll leave it.
No, carry on.
Because I don't agree with this term, our land or his land or my land. Anyways,
Yeah.
I think that as long as, look, you're living in a place and I didn't kick you out of your own home, me taking the rulership of a place is not me taking your land. Because for example, sorry, I'm interrupting you. Because the Muslims were being persecuted in the lands that you're referring to. So the reason Islam, leave Christianity now and what they did and the persecution they did, I'm not defending them. I'm talking about Islam here. I'm here as a Muslim defending Islam. So when Islam went there, it was because the people were being persecuted in these lands. So they were trying to help the people who are being persecuted in these lands. First, hear the message of the truth. Two, prevent the persecution that was happening to them by the morals of Islam. You get the point? So it was not like the Muslims didn't go and say, "Yo, okay, this is your house, no, go outside, it's my house now."
I said it's like our land. It's
Yes.
within this land, there's a lot of genocides against the I'm Kurdish. There's a lot of genocides against them, a lot of massacres within this land against them to try and ethnically cleanse them. So that's why they took over our land, because it was a way of getting into that land and ethnically cleansing everyone inside that land.
Yes, but Muslims didn't do that. If someone did that, then I would agree with you.
Muslims didn't do. Actually, no. Muslims did. So.
You wouldn't be here then if they ethnically cleansed you. You wouldn't.
And that's why my parents.
You know what ethnic cleansing is?
And that's why my parents were immigrants who fled from this, so they wouldn't die.
But are there Kurdish Muslims there or not?
There are.
So the ethnic cleansing, sister, means that you remove the ethnicity from the land. You cleanse the land from the ethnicity.
So I'm from the Turkish side, right?
Yes.
There has been massacres towards Kurdish religion specifically by a Muslim country, right?
Anyways.
You are not secular. They are. Their laws are from Muslims.
Anyways, let me tell you something important, Elifano, yeah? Because we are making historical claims first. I would need to ask you for references for what you're talking about. Because I don't agree that this took place. There's no ever ethnic cleansing that took place. If it did, as I said, there would be no Kurdish or Turkish.
An attempt of cleansing.
No, okay, that's another claim. So we would have to.
It's not a claim. It is.
I understand that I agree that Muslims entered there and they ruled. I don't disagree with that. But you claiming that what they were doing is that they were saying, for example, you leave the country because you are Turkish or you're Kurdish, you would have to give me evidences for that. Which historian says what you're saying? Can you name me one?
Massacres and genocides, are you asking for?
No, I'm asking for the ethnic cleansing that would take place. Can you name me one historian, one academic historian, reliable one, which claimed that Muslims were doing this? Christians is not my point. If you claim Muslims are doing this, you have to give me at least one historian saying that.
I personally, off the top of my head, I could not do that, but I'm
sure. What I would advise you to do is to go read the history, not from Muslims. You don't have to read it from Muslims. Read it from people who are not biased towards any religion, and they're just giving you a historical point of view.
That is a little bit controversial, just because the history did happen. And it's kind of like, did it really happen? Yes, it did, you know? And
I'm not contesting whether history happened or not, but I'm saying,
because if my uncle and granddad died and it did happen because they were this religion and this.
Your uncle and grandfather, there was no Muslim empire at that time.
No. The
So how
Sivas
you saying-
massacre happened in the late 1900s
So okay, there
Yeah.
was no Muslim nation at that time, anyways.
by Turkey, who was influenced by Muslims.
No, that's a claim now. You say they were influenced by Muslims. I'm saying to you, there was no, like the Ottoman Empire died before what you're talking about. The Ottoman Empire, which actually Muslims was one structure, where there was a caliphate. You know, a caliphate, a leader of the
Yeah,
Muslims.
I know.
That died way before what you're talking about.
if that
So
is-
if you're saying, if you want to put a responsibility of Islam on that, as I said to you, I separate between the people and the religion. Like if it was a Muslim caliphate, then maybe I might look at the claim, but still I separate between what they do, unless it was justified by the scripture. But what you're claiming, sister, is a bunch of people, so-called Muslims, did it. That doesn't mean anything, sister. You know, I cannot blame Islam. I cannot blame Islam based on what someone did something wrong. He did a genocide or did something. The Armenian genocide, I'm not justifying anything which happened which is un-Islamic by a Muslim. That's what I said to you from the beginning. Before you bring these things, yeah? But you have to be objective. You cannot base your feelings just because someone misused something which is true. You cannot push away that something which is true instead of blaming the person who's doing wrong.
I agree.
What you should do is to blame the individual who's doing wrong, right? Like there's so many Muslims that didn't do what you're talking about, right? If just a group of Muslims did it, then you cannot blame everyone
I-
and religion. So that's what I'm saying to you, sister, right? So it has to be rationality. So I'm saying right now, if Prophet Muhammad did, and I'm giving you examples of predictions of the future like this, would you accept he's a messenger or not?
I suppose I would.
Okay. How about you?
For me personally, I don't doubt that there is a God,
Good.
but for me, it's more so I disagree with a lot of the core values of Islam.
Okay, let
Sorry,
me deal with that point then. Let me deal with that point. Now, if I say to you, what's your name?
Mansoor.
Mansoor. Really? Okay. I know another Mansoor who's Bangladeshi. You know his name is Mansoor and he's from Bangladesh. So, sorry, coming back to what I'm saying. Where do you get your morality from?
I don't really base it off of anything. It's just a blend, you know. It's just my own personal beliefs, what I find to be right and wrong. And
Would you agree that is influenced by your society and your upbringing?
To an extent.
There's no doubt about that, right? It would be influenced by your society and your upbringing. So if you're basing now, what you're doing is you're making moral judgment over a religion that has evidence to its divine origin, which has objective morality, and you are using subjective criteria that has been influenced by Western society. So whatever moral thing, look, I'm not dealing with the moral claim specifically, I'm giving you an overview of what you're doing, right? Which then shows you that what you're doing is not logically valid. You get the point? If you're coming from a subjective moral criteria that is influenced by society, if you were in a different society, you believe otherwise. And your subjective morality is not enforceable, meaning it's just you, what you believe is right or wrong. Someone else can believe the same thing is to be wrong or right. That would mean that there is no morality really. It's just a construct of the mind based on your societal upbringing. So on what basis, on what criteria are you using to disagree with Islamic morality? What standpoint are you coming from?
It's not a particular standpoint. It's more so just my own personal beliefs. Because, it's what do you call it?
Where does it come from? You get the point. It comes from a Western influential society.
Also,
If you were born, if you lived all your life in Bangladesh, which I'm assuming you haven't, I'm assuming you were born here, and you lived your life here, and you studied in university. I can tell you all of that about you without meeting you. So that's what you did, and because you did that, you have the values that they have, and I was telling her as well when she mentioned spirituality. Subconsciously, you have that without knowing. So you're disagreeing is just you're disagreeing based on an idea of Assalamu alaikum. You're disagreeing on a basis of a liberal Western moral framework, which is subjective.
Not entirely.
Give me an example of something you disagree with.
I disagree with stoning to death.
Stop
for
here.
capital punishment.
Stop here. Yes, stoning to death because of what? Anything. But many countries today have a death sentence. Why does it matter?
I don't agree with death sentence.
Oh, you don't agree with this sentence at all.
Because a lot of
So
the
if I
time-
go and let's assume I did what the guy who was in Germany did. We don't even need to mention his name. And I killed 7 million Jews or something like that. Yeah. You believe I should not have a death sentence. Is that what you're saying? If I go to the park and then rape little children up day and night, families of little children, you believe I don't deserve to die?
It's slightly
I see what
different
you're saying, but
because
here's the thing.
No, he
right?
said he doesn't believe in death sentence at all.
I know,
I'm
but
saying
It
in
shouldn't
any
be- it
scenario.
shouldn't be
with
in our
stoning,
hands to
with
take a
stoning
life.
to death, It's why are they stoning to death?
No, I'm going to answer why, but no, you're staying. I'm going to answer. Yeah, Khalid is with me and he was in your face.
Isn't it
Shouldn't it be
disbelief?
shouldn't it be from the perspective that that it should be in the hands of Allah, not the hands of us?
But it is in the hands of Allah. It is, look, if I'm the ruler and I tell you, what's your name? Mansoor again, sorry, I forgot. If I tell you, Mansoor, go slap this guy in the face, still in my hands, you're just enforcing my judgment, right? We are saying that the ruling of stoning comes from Allah, right? So we are just people who are enforcing that law which is already in place. So we agree with you. It should be to Allah. We're not the ones who determine that. It's an objective morality that comes from Allah. Allah is the one who determined X should have the punishment of Z. And Allah said that laymen should not implement it. It has to be an Islamic society and the government has to apply it. Do you understand? But again, do you agree with the capital punishment for certain crimes or not? Even on a liberal point of view, you would find the fathers of liberalism saying that they agree with the capital punishment. Like John Stuart Mill and John Locke. If you read the writings, they say that it does make sense and it is needed as a deterrent in society for certain crimes like treason. Yeah? So, and it exists in America and many other countries. Do you get the point? So there are death sentences for certain crimes. It all depends on the gravity of the crime and who is determining the gravity of the crime is high or low. Yeah?
So you're saying it's subjective?
I'm saying it is objective from an Islamic point of view, but even if you look at it from a liberal point of view, it becomes subjective and then there is measurement and who is measuring it. This is the subjectivity, you understand? In one land we say this is the gravest crime on a liberal point of view, on another land they say it's not. Like for example, they were putting the homosexuals to death before the 1960s. Now if you just talk about them and burn a flag, they put you in prison for 20 years. You get the point? It's a complete up and down of what they used to say. The point is very subjective. They used to believe X on a liberal framework and it changed to Z. You understand what I'm saying? I'm saying right now, you have to be precise because you're talking about Islam. So now would you agree with me that a punishment of a death sentence punishment is reasonable for certain crimes? Would you agree? Certain crimes.
I can see why it's reasonable, but I would still disagree with it.
Sure, but that would be an emotional point of view. Do you get the point?
I see it as logical, not emotional.
Sorry?
I see it as logical. Because maybe it shouldn't be in our hands, and there could also be,
But I answered that point. I said it's not in our hands. It is determined by the Creator.
Okay.
We're just implementing it. So why is it? Where is the logic behind not having it?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Do you agree what I'm saying? Yeah? Okay. So we're saying it's logically consistent. Now the question is, which specific punishments that you think that you don't agree with, for example, when it comes to stoning? Do you have something in mind?
Say something like adultery.
Okay, let's say adultery, no problem. Very good example. Now, can you tell me what is the criteria for us to stone someone in a Sharia state if they commit adultery?
I believe it's stoning to death if you...
What do we need as evidence for that to happen?
Witness statements?
Sorry?
Witnesses?
Of who? How many?
3? How many? I don't know. I don't know.
Sure. So you need to know what we need in order for us to apply. And I'll tell you something, I've not come across a single case in Islamic history, 1,400 years, of stoning to death where the evidence is established. Because the criteria is so strict. Allah put the punishment just as a deterrent, but people don't research the criteria, and that's the point. They just deterrent. I'll tell you the criteria now. So the criteria is the following. There has to be 4 male practicing Muslim men. So 4 males that are Muslims that are practicing the religion. Why practicing? For example, they cannot look in the window and see someone committing adultery because you cannot spy. Allah tells you not to spy. So if you are a practicing Muslim, you wouldn't spy. If you spied, your testimony is not accepted because you are going against Islamic rulings. Yeah?
Why male?
Sorry?
Why male?
Male is Islamic judgment. That's what Islam says. Yes. So 4 male practicing Muslim men. Yeah. So even 4 females say it, there is nothing will happen. You see. So 4 male practicing Muslim men, they have to witness the act of penetration. So you don't see her entering someone's home. No. They have to see penetration with their own eyes. And then they have to willingly testify. They go and testify. X, Y, and Z took place. Now, this is impossible unless you do it in the street, in a public place. Right? Which even in this country you would have offenses of public indecency. Yeah? Now, so that's why I have not come across a single case where that happens. But there are people who came and said, we want to be punished. Like Muslims, we want to be purified, we believe in the Islamic morality, we've done bad and I want to be punished. But I have not seen a single case of it being applied. Why? Because Allah put that criteria because He doesn't want to punish. Allah says in the Quran, مَا يَفْعَلُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابِكُمْ. What would Allah do with your punishment? He's the creator, He doesn't need to punish you or anyone. You get the point? But Allah put it in a society to deter people from doing that, because you do not see the great gravity of that crime. When you commit adultery, when you break a family, when children are going to the streets, not having a family structure, there's so much things you're not seeing in that image. You think of it as just a simple lust that someone did something. No, there's much more to it. You get the point?
Yeah.
Can destroy society from within. That's why it's a big crime. That's why there is a big flag that Islam puts, which is, it's stoning. But then if you go into the details, you will see that Islam is so tolerant to the extent that you cannot even imagine. So this comes to apostasy. What else do you have?
Just to clarify it one more time. So you're saying the reasoning behind adultery being such a great crime is because it erodes family structure, right?
No, I'm saying the reasoning is Allah said it is bad. But a wisdom we can see, from our human perspective, this is some of the wisdoms we can see. You get the point?
Yeah.
Like I can tell you something without telling you the wisdom, but you look at it, you realize, actually this guy is very wise. This is the wisdom behind why he was telling me not to do that. Do you get the point? So we can see some wisdoms. This is some of the wisdoms we see. There's probably much more. This is some of the wisdoms that you see in society. It can destroy a woman's life. She can commit suicide. It's because she loved someone so much and he cheated on her, and that happens. I don't need to tell you, right? That happens. People commit suicide. Sometimes they kill their partner because they know that he cheated on them. So you might not see the gravity of the crime. If you look at the statistics and what it causes in society, you would realize there's so much wisdom behind that rule. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what else do you have?
I'm sorry to cut it short, but we do need to.
Yeah. Wait one
So
time.
sorry.
Sure. Anyways.
We'll definitely be having a conversation about it on our way home as well.
Sure.
So-
Anyways, my advice to you is I invite you both to Islam, 100%, because this is what I'm trying to do here, right? If it makes sense to you, if it's consistent, take the step. It has to come from you. If it's logically consistent, I'm here. You can come any Saturday. I'm happy to have discussions with you. But as I said, try to be logical and look at the points of view, look at the evidences. You will always arrive to the conclusion that Islam is the truth, which is what I have done, yeah? Now, this book here, as I told you about prophecies, I didn't give you many, yeah? This book here will have some of the prophecies. And chapter 1 would have the criteria and false prophets, like you were telling me about Elifana, yeah?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
This is where Prophet Muhammad's prophecy starts, and this is false prophets. You can read the book if you like, yeah?
Yeah, perfect.
So, if you have any questions, come back from me. I'm happy.
Okay, thank you. I don't know.
Nice talking to you.